Hello everyone, welcome back to the channel. Today I wanted to talk about, maybe put my 2 cents in, because that's what the internet needs more these days, is more opinions. But wanted to discuss book buying bans, specifically sort of what they are, when first meets the eye, maybe a bit deeper than that, and ask the question, should you do one yourself? So let's just jump right into it. I know the channel has grown quite a bit recently, so if you're new here, welcome. Appreciate you being here. And if you haven't subscribed yet, consider subscribing. We're doing all the sorts of book-related stuff, just a guy sharing his opinion on the internet, and that's what the world needs more of these days, But let's dive right into it. Book buying bans. What are they? I guess they are simple as the name implies, just a cease of the purchase of books. Simple as that. End scene. I'll catch you in the next one. Just stop buying books. You see behind me, I have enough books to last me for probably years, and not even just behind me, but in other rooms in this apartment on various other shelves as well. Probably have somewhere in the realm of 300 books, 320 books maybe. And I would guesstimate that 200 of those I have yet to read. At my current reading pace, around a book a week, give or take, depending on the season. As we know, the seasonal reading slumps are a thing, but about a book a week as it comes out to averages per year. That would mean I could go 4 years without buying a book and never run out of things to read. That sounds great. Save money, don't buy books for 4 years, read what you have. It's sort of the same thing. I relate it a little bit when it comes to like grocery shopping. And you don't go grocery shopping just because you don't like what's in the pantry. You eat what you have first, save the fresh food and eat that first before it goes bad. And it's a little bit different with books because obviously they don't spoil. Maybe they spoil in the sense that your interest may not be as high when you bought a book as to when you then, go pick it up and read it. But that is just the thing that is so great about reading, and the interests that we want to read about wax and wane. And if you've been following this channel for any period of time, you have definitely seen me spiral down my interesting rabbit holes, and just topics about various topics that I have found interest in and therefore want to read in. Most recently it's been books about chess, and so I bought a myriad of books, a novel about chess in the Queen's Gambit, a history of chess, some reference books, some puzzle books, things of that nature. And that, as my interests outside the world of reading develop, my interests within reading develop at the same time, wanting to read more about them. And that is what is so great about the hobby in reading, is that there's endless material to pick up and read. But that being said, you could never read everything. I think I read somewhere in the ballpark of 3 to 4 million books are published each and every single year when you take into account self-published titles and otherwise. And if you think in a given lifetime you're not going to read 3 to 4 million books, it really just sets into perspective that you have to choose each book that you read sort of wisely, I would say. But also know that you can't read everything. So it is a sort of mind illusion to come to. And how does this relate to book buying bans? I have found myself recently, and I guess this video is more or less for me rather than anyone, recently just sort of impulse buying books on topics I have interest in at the moment, like the chess one. I bring that up because I haven't played chess in about a week and I haven't really thought about it in a while. The books are fine and dandy, but I mean, that interest has come and not gone, but it has definitely waned a bit, and that's okay. Maybe next time I get, the itch to sit in front of a chessboard again, that's perfect, because I'll have the books to supply that nourishment, that knowledge that I am craving. But yeah, just wanted to sort of pump the brakes a bit, stop like impulse buying books. And I guess that brings me to the second point of book buying bans, and how it's a bit more deeper than just stopping buying books. It's simple enough. I mean, that's what it is. The action you take, or the lack of action, I guess, at the end of the day, is the you stop buying books. But is it deeper than that? Is it, I tend to think of it as maybe it's an art of self-control, not just jumping the gun with how everything is so easy to buy these days in a couple of clicks. I've definitely fallen prey to the thrift book sales, the Amazon sales, coupons online, things of that nature. Books just show up at my front door and it's like nothing ever happened. But yeah, the art of self-control, maybe the art of financial control, relating it to, I guess, a book I read a while ago, Meditations by Marcus Aurelius, I guess more or less the practice of Stoicism, if anyone is familiar. So just sort of being content with what you have. When good things happen, not being overly celebratory, but also not being too down in the dumps when bad things happen is sort of the way I like to think about it. Being content with what you have and just doing that. And I think that book buying bans embody that to its core. Another thing is sort of delayed gratitude. In this day and age, like I said, you can buy anything with the click of a button. I have been starting to sort of just write down my wants rather than go and shop for them. Write down my wants and see how long I actually end up wanting them for. Most of the time I end up deleting them off this want list after a week or so. They sort of phase out of my mind. And it's a way to save money, but also sort of save that mental clutter of wanting and not necessarily being content. I'm at the stage in life that I'm looking to save up to buy a house, and if the housing market is going to continue the way it is, I'm going to have to save for quite a while. So not necessarily cutting costs or being restrictive with myself, but yeah, just sort of being content with what I have, finding peace in that, not going and buying the latest thing that I want, so to speak, and delaying that gratification maybe for more satisfying goals, buying a house or the ownership that comes with that. I don't really know. I guess that's what I'm telling myself now. Another way to relate this, I think, in terms of my life, like I said, I think this video is more or less for me rather than anyone, is like relating book buying bans to a calorie deficit, like a weight loss phase or a diet, so to speak. I've been on one, just trying to get back in the swing of things since about April. The time of recording, it's end of September 25th. And I have lost 45 pounds and it's been great. And I've learned a whole lot about myself. If you go watch some of my earlier videos, I think there's a definite change in just the shape of my face and the way I speak and the way I move and my confidence level and things of that nature. But yeah, relating it to a calorie deficit in the same way of stopping buying books. I guess how do those two relate? In essence, I think it's just a raising of awareness that I am after when it comes to book buying bans or calorie deficits or things of that nature. Just being more aware of what you consume, both financially, calorically, things of that nature. Opens your eyes, the little $7 purchase there, the $20 purchase there. It doesn't seem like a whole lot until you sort of get down and add everything up. It can get, quite overwhelming. Turn your back, and next thing you know, over the past couple months, you've spent hundreds of dollars, seemingly unknowingly. Same thing like when executing a diet, you don't really know how much you snack. At least I didn't until you start tracking it. So I guess similarly, having that mindset change can help me. I don't know if that will help anyone else, but that's sort of what will help me going forward. And just, like I said, being content with what I have, having those horse blinders on to focus on bigger goals than buying the next item I crave, so to speak, and just focusing energy towards things that will ultimately be of a bigger payoff. Now, I'm by no means against buying books. I think one of the greatest pleasures in life is having books and having a library, a curated library, so to speak. I guess this video is full of comparisons, but comparing it to like a wine cellar. You don't just go and buy a bottle of wine and then drink it right there. You sort of build up your collection. What are you in the mood for? curate it over the span of many, many years. And then when you're in the mood for something, boom, you already have it. And sometimes books speak to us at different times. That brings up a good point. You know, like I said, I'm not against buying books. I did this, one of my favorite books I've read this year. I impulse bought, seemingly, because I thought I found it interesting and I bought it. This was probably a year and a half ago, and it sat on my shelf for a while. And then I picked it up this year, and it's probably top 5 books I've read this year. That is Panenka by Ronan Hessen. Talked a little bit about this book on my channel, but this was my perfect book. Go check out my video on it. I won't dive too deep into the details of the book. That's not really what this video is about. But yeah, at the end of the day, I'm not against buying books. I would have never really bought this book because I haven't seen anyone talk about it on you know, apart from that one TikTok I saw many moons ago. Someone talking about it. I was like, oh, that sounds interesting, and I immediately bought it. I think sort of building that stoic muscle, that financial restraint at the end of the day, and like I said, putting those horse blinders on, focusing on bigger and better goals than buying the latest and greatest want that we want, really putting them into check, is something that I'm going to be focusing on. I guess that brings us to our last point, the wrap up. Should you do one? And one being a book buying ban. I think it could be a good exercise. Try it out for a month, 2 months, 3 months, see what happens, see how your mind changes, see how your relationship to buying things change. Maybe you could do this with just, you know, Amazon purchases or things of that nature, but you put some restraint into it. Like I said, flex that stoic muscle, flex the financial restraint, and just be aware of those urges and how it affects you, and sort of, I like to think of it as like, be your own scientist. I do little experiments. I like to think of these as little experiments on myself. And in this book buying ban, what I don't necessarily know what I want to get out of it. Long term, I want to save money. That's sort of what I want to get out of it. But what else comes to the forefront as a result of doing this seemingly simple task of not buying books? Do I become more content with what I own? Does the consumer brain inside of me sort of be quiet for a little bit? Do I, you know, find my interests settle in a more set and narrow groove as I'm not being constantly fed new sort of advertisements and wants from various you know, points of media? Yeah, I'm just going to sort of be interested to see what happens in the upcoming months. I may run this experiment on myself until the holidays and just see what happens. I'll keep you guys posted in my weekly reading recap. Like I said, be sure to subscribe and follow along for more. But that will do it. Let me know down below, have you ever done a book buying ban? If so, what did you think of it? What are some things you noticed? If you think a book buying ban is stupid, also let me know down below. I'm curious for all discussion. I want this to be an open place to discuss all things books, and book buying bans are a pretty big thing these days, so let me know down below. But yeah, it's been sort of a rambly video, bit all over the place, but hey, that's what I do. Appreciate you watching up until this point. If you have, like I said, consider subscribing if you have not already. Give it a like if you liked it and all that YouTube stuff. And we'll catch you in the next one. Thanks for hanging out, guys.